friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley Ariana, joined by the wonderful Steph Sanchez. And Steph, I think it was last week that I was telling you, it feels like we always have fun stuff to talk about. Well, this week is the owners' meetings in Orlando, and John Lynch spoke this morning. Found it very interesting. Also, some stuff going on with the 49ers skill position players on social media. I think one thing that maybe was meaningful, and then some things that were potentially playful. How are you doing today, Steph?
I'm good. It must be a Monday thing that like we get new
Right? We always
updates always. We do always have something to talk about. But that's great. I mean, I always joke that the 49ers are like a endless content machine. So it's good for us.
I agree. I agree. Well, did you hear John Lynch speak this morning? I thought I had it all wrong. I thought the coaches were going to speak today. For anyone who doesn't know the schedule, because I didn't, John Lynch and the AFC coaches spoke today, and then tonight is the like party gathering where I guess a bunch of the beat writers and coaches drink and socialize, and then tomorrow morning is kind of the iconic. I've seen it for a couple of years now, where the reporters are like filming, close up to Kyle Shanahan's face, and he's very hungover. So that's tomorrow morning that the NFC coaches are talking. But yeah, so that's the Orlando schedule for everyone who didn't know, and it's like an annual thing. They do it every year, which I think is kind of interesting. Pretty cool. I wish that we could be there and ask them some hard-hitting questions, Steph.
Yeah, I wish too. This is probably the most private, I guess, event of all the events where they allow media. It's very closed off, so that's part of the reason. But yeah, I mean, I feel like we get some pretty good answers, especially this time of the year, because it's after like the first couple waves of free agency, the big
Yeah,
waves of free agency, and then it's in between the draft too. So yeah, there's always something to talk about. And yeah, of course, Lynch gave us some things to ponder for the next week.
definitely wasn't surprising that he, likes everyone they signed. That's how he started off his
Right.
press conference talking about
Not
that.
very
I
notable
always,
there.
I always love those questions. Like, he's just gonna come out and be like, "Yeah, darn, really upset." I think he even forgot one of the guys' names. Like for a second, he was like, "Who am I missing out?" And then I think Lombardi, pointed out one of the special team players that they signed. He was like, "Yeah, and him, he's great too." And it's like, okay, well, but I will say, like, as a side note, I've been relatively impressed and intrigued in their interest in going towards like the middle class depth pieces, especially on that defensive line. I know there's been like some turmoil about that, but I think with the guys that they were losing, and John Lynch even referred to Charles Amenahu and Samson Ebukam and some guys like that, and how they've really relied on those guys in the past, and they felt the absence of a lot of guys like that last year, and they wanted to kind of revamp that. When you were listening to John Lynch, what was your immediate takeaways? I know that I feel like the number one thing to talk about is obviously he got asked about Brandon Aiyuk and extending him, or even potentially Aiyuk playing on that fifth-year option, which I felt like was the most interesting thing. But before we get to that, did you have any takeaways about any of the standout players he talked about or anything like that?
No, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head. Obviously, he was very complimentary of all the guys that they signed in free agency, and to your point, that's pretty much as expected. I mean, I think the biggest takeaway was his comments on Brandon Aiyuk. Pretty much saying that he was just as confused, it seemed like, with the trade rumors, I guess,
Yeah,
between 49ers Steelers and all that, as I guess some of us were. And so he pretty much made it clear that no,
they
nothing's
want.
going on there. Um, and the two sides are talking, it seems like. Now, when you hear Lynch say
They did.
that,
He did clarify, right? Because didn't someone say like, "Are you guys in negotiations or are you just talking?" And he said they're still in the talking
yeah,
stages.
because
And then paused and said, but it takes two, which I found kind of interesting because if you want to go back to, and I know a lot of this is speculation, gossip, and I feel like I'm so not above that, and I know that sometimes you are, and you'll bring me down to reality. But I do remember last week, I think it was you and I were talking when Brandon Aiyuk had made a couple tweets or tweets on Twitter. Jesus, made a couple posts on Twitter, and then Brad Graham from the SF Niners kind of quote tweeted something he said and was like, Brandon Aiyuk's not picking up other teams' calls. Well, someone replied to that and said, Brandon Aiyuk's not picking up the 49ers calls. Aiyuk likes it. For everyone who, isn't familiar, Aiyuk is not active on Twitter. He's not normally doing these things. So when today John Lynch paused and then made like a point to say, in order to negotiate, it takes two sides, I did wonder, like, I wonder what's going on with Brandon Aiyuk's side at the moment. All this to say, I do assume that they'll work it out. So I know that we're spending a lot of time kind of in the nitty gritty of things, like breaking down little rumors, and it can be silly because I do think it'll work out, but I do think it, I don't think he would have added that in there for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's said stuff like that before as well. Maybe trying to put the onus on the player a little bit. And who knows, like it just seems like it's John Lynch or it's the 49ers and Ayuk's reps talking right now because as Lynch kind of alluded to, they're still working through some parameters first. So maybe they're talking about, the range, of certain many things that they got to figure out, and then they can get into the weeds of negotiation, which the 49ers have already said they're not going to get into the negotiations until after the draft. So that's my expectation.
That makes sense.
Again, I'm not.
Do you think they do that just to like? Do you think they do that one because like to solidify their roster and see where they might might have holes, and then also because that's kind of when other teams might make a really a king's ransom type of deal, and then obviously after the draft, nothing that they would offer would be worth it to the 49ers? Is that why you think that they wait till after the draft?
Maybe. I mean, yeah, like it would take like some king's ransom to move off of Brandon Aiyuk, something super ridiculous. I think they keep the door open. Like it's just smart to listen to teams. That being said, I don't think they actually want to trade him, right? So that's why it would take so much to get him, for the 49ers to make that move. But yeah, I feel like the intention is there. And I'm not panicking. I think they're gonna get something done. And going to like Ayuk's comments, or he didn't even use words, right? It was just all emojis.
Yes. Should we describe it? Because I did see.
Spoke.
Should we describe it? Because I did see Corey Soto said, what exactly basically did he say? So after John Lynch did his press conference where he was asked about Brandon Aiyuk and extending him, John Lynch said I don't have the exact quote, but it was something to the extent of, we always prioritize re-signing our important players, the players that mean a lot to us, the players that we've drafted, that have grown up with us. We make a big effort to keep our guys. We have a long history of re-signing guys and extending guys, and BA is, no exception. We want him around. He was given some follow-up questions. Could he see it possible that Brandon Aiyuk play on his fifth-year option this year? And John Lynch should say yes. He said that is, I think he said that is an option, which is, funny response to that. Is that an option? Yeah, it is. But he said they would still be looking to extend Aiyuk after that then. So it wouldn't be like we just want him to play this year out and then would be interested in trading him. It seems like their long-term goal is to extend him no matter what. But I think the 49ers do feel like we have power in this situation. And if we look at our roster and we realize we can't afford this right now, which is interesting because it does usually go down. Doesn't their cap normally go down in the beginning? But it seemed like all options were open for John Lynch, honestly, except for trading Aiyuk, unless like you and I stated before, it's like some grandiose deal. When you look at what Willie Snead just went for, I doubt that Brandon Aiyuk is going to get more than that, and I don't think that they would trade Brandon Aiyuk for anything less than like a high first round pick and a player or something. I don't think that that's on the table right now. And according to John Lynch, he said that extending him this offseason or next offseason and having him play, would that make Brandon Aiyuk upset? Potentially. We'll get to what he posted on his IG. He's still going to play well, even if he's upset, because it's like that would just make it another contract year. I think a lot of people kind of say like, oh, well, if they're upset, then like, what if they sit out and they, they're not going to drop the ball because they're like mad at the team. They want to, even if they don't want to come back after that, they want to perform well for their next team. So someone wants to, sign them after this year. Now, I don't think that John Lynch wants it to get contentious like that because he talked about valuing Aiyuk and the relationship they had. But yeah, in response, after this whole entire press conference happened, Brandon Aiyuk did go on his Instagram story and in emojis basically said bullshit talks or money talks, bullshit walks in emojis. So I don't know. Definitely, in my opinion, suspect timing. What is up with our wide receivers in their contract years going to social media to start? Like, that's not going to get you paid more. Like, I don't know.
It's just a league-wide wide receiver thing. And I don't know. It's very dramatic, right? But that's what, social media, we're going to see this more and more often with the new age of younger players who are coming into the league. They use social media a lot, and so that's how they communicate, that's how they get their feelings out, that's how they use their voice. So if that's how Aiyuk is feeling, I agree with him. This is true. So yeah, we'll just see what happens. But again, as I've been saying, none of these negotiations happen on social media. So whenever, Brandon Aiyuk and his agent are ready to, get into something more serious, which it seems like it won't be till after the draft anyway, as we've been knowing. Like,
seems like that's what the 49ers want. So they might not even feel that, anxious right now. Like, like it's fans' job. We're the ones that kind of overreact and, buy into every little social media post or whatever. But it seems like on Aiyuk's side and on the 49ers side, they both kind of are of the mindset that they're waiting until after the draft. So,
well, for Aiyuk, it looks like he's anxious. Like the way that he's been handling it so far, he's anxious to get something going. And I get it. It's like, hey, like, I haven't heard anything from my agent. Let's just say, right? Like, obviously, according to Lynch, there's conversations happening between the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk's agent, but maybe nothing substantial enough for the agent to talk to Brandon Aiyuk about it. So Brandon Aiyuk is essentially in the dark and doesn't know maybe what's going on. And so to him, his interpretation is that, well, if I'm not hearing anything, they must not be serious about actually wanting me, right? So I think that's part of it as well. I think players get antsy, and when they get antsy, you see reactions like we saw on his Instagram. So again, we have at least a month, or we do have a month till the draft. We're going to probably see more stuff like this.
More pressure. Yeah, more pressure.
Yeah, we're going to see more stuff from Brandon Aiyuk's side within the next month, I think, just to, I don't know, like you said, build the pressure maybe. But at the end of the day, I don't think the 49ers are really fazed by it. They've been here before, and they know how they do business. So Brandon Aiyuk and all these social media antics isn't going to, keep them off that path of what they've normally done and how they've negotiated.
And I like what Clutch Sheen Sports, which is Marco, said. Aiyuk is trying to do anything to gain leverage. He has zero leverage, especially with that fifth-year option. and the franchise tag the following year. So I agree. I think a lot of what these players do on social media, it's like by riling up the fans is kind of like their opportunity to feel like they have some power, whether or not it actually, translates into any actionable item. It might just be like, this is a really stressful time I know when, Debo Samuel had like a little documentary that came out when after he had signed, and they showed that he went and stayed with Trent Williams. He was like at his mom's house. Like he was having a hard time, just like, this is life-changing money for these players. And I think there is something to kind of getting anxious and being like, okay, I want to train hard, but I don't want to get hurt. And are they going to pay me, or should I go somewhere else? And like, I can't even go somewhere else and I want to be here, but I imagine it's a very stressful time that maybe most fans can't even really like put themselves in. But imagine you have a job promotion coming up and they might not choose you, or they might choose you, and you have to wait, 4 months for any like real reassurance about that. And during that time, as much as we're hearing, reports of who the 49ers are interviewing in the draft, and are they listening to trade offers? Are they not listening to trade offers? A lot of these things players have said themselves, like, I found out on Twitter that I was traded. So every time that we're hearing rumors, Brandon Aiyuk is also hearing those rumors. You know what I mean? And I think it is important maybe to look at the human side and realize like that their antics. I don't think that fans should get that annoyed with them, because I think it's just maybe someone who feels a little bit powerless trying to grab onto some power. I thought it would be interesting, just really quick, for anyone who hadn't heard the exact quote. I pulled it up here. The question was, are you involved in any trade discussions with Brandon Aiyuk? John Lynch answered, no, I was just with Mike Tomlin at Michigan's Pro Day, and he coached me, so we're very close. And I was like, bro, what's going on? I promise you, nothing's going on there. We're actively talking with Brandon Aiyuk, trying to figure something out. We have a good history of working with the guys we want to get a deal done with and getting something done. It takes two sides. So can we do that? We'll see. There's a number of different directions that could go, but we appreciate the heck out of Brandon Aiyuk and who he is as a player. We want him to be a part of the 49ers, so we're going to work to make that a reality. Follow-up question was, would you guys be okay with him playing under that fifth-year option? John Lynch says, yes, that would be one of the options. Questioner said, would Brandon Aiyuk be okay with him? John Lynch then admitted, you'd probably have to ask him that, which I think is John Lynch saying, probably not, but unfortunately he doesn't get a say in that.
I mean, I don't see it getting that far, but that goes back to Brandon Aiyuk having little to no leverage at all, because the 49ers can sit back and say, well, hey, if you don't like the numbers that we give you and we try and nothing gets worked out, I mean, you can still play this year, so we're not really too worried about it. And Brandon Aiyuk, on the other hand, is like, well, what would I do then, right?
Yeah.
Like how, because with the new CBA rules, we haven't seen a player hold out. We've seen players hold in where they will be in the building but not participate so they don't get fined. But we haven't seen it go as far as missing games. When you're missing games, you get fined even further. And so again, like Brandon Aiyuk he doesn't have the leverage there. And so he and his agent doesn't want it to go to that too. And so in a way, John Lynch saying, yeah, he can play on his fifth-year option. We'd be fine with that. Like that again is almost like, I'm not saying that John Lynch is doing it intentionally, but that's a flex of the power and the leverage.
Yeah. He's like, this is the reality of the situation, by the way. I completely agree. Now, really quickly, and I also saw when I wanted to address, I think it's kind of a BS rumor, but it's like 24 49ers. It has like 80,000 followers on Twitter, but it's like an aggregate website that talks about the 49ers and posts some rumors. They actually posted Brandon Aiyuk's story, which was Money Talks bullshit walks in emojis, and then posted a quote from the new Raiders head coach when he was asked about Josh Jacobs leaving. He said, "Yeah, it's a real shame. Money talks, bullshit walks." And he had that quote today at around the same time because the AFC coaches were talking today. So some people were saying, "Hey, is this in response to John Lynch, or is Aiyuk, hinting again that he wants at the Raiders?" Because we remember earlier this year, his brother was saying, Aiyuk to the Raiders, which once again, Aiyuk could not make that decision even if he wanted to. But I don't know. I saw that and I thought maybe I would ask you if you saw anything to that, or if it's just coincidence that
I
that
did.
phrase
I
was.
and I and I follow ML Football, who I think posted that first, and he gets paid for his Twitter account. A lot of people get paid for their Twitter account. When you get paid for your Twitter account, you make money off of engagement.
I want to get paid off my Twitter account with that. Steph, what are we doing?
So I don't know. That to me was
I saw
was a
your post with John Lynch and JJ McCarthy. Steph,
which is
this
funny
was
because
in
John
breaking news.
Lynch talked about that, and he actually revealed the conversation, or at least part of the conversation they were having, which was not serious
Would
at
you
all.
would you like to tell the audience really quick
Let
what
me
I'm
see if I
referring
can
to?
find it, because I had the what's it called, the transcript. He said, I was able to talk to wait, hold on. The transcript is kind of gibberish because I haven't really gone through it, and it's just AI that does it. It was about, I was talking to him. He went to my mom's high school, and so it was an all-girls school, so I had some fun with him over that. So at some point it must have switched to a co-ed school, but he was joking
Oh,
with
there
him
we go.
because when McCarthy went there, or when John Lynch's mom went there, I guess it was an all-girls school, so he was just poking fun at him. But
Not trying to get a different franchise QB.
yeah,
Darn it.
exactly. Like John Lynch
Darn it,
joked
Steph.
about that. It's nice to just like be able to, talk to guys, be at these pro days, and not
Lighthearted.
have to like worry about,
Oh no,
needing a
breaking
quarterback.
news. Exactly. I thought that was kind of funny, but no, when you were talking about the Twitter account, I was like, Steph popped off with the interactions on that tweet. I remember when I saw you when you posted that. And
Yeah,
then really,
so like, yeah, you got to do, like, to an extent, you got to do with what you have, but like, I'm not reaching, right? I'm not making stuff up, but yeah, that was something that happened. I posted a video, they hung out. I'm not like, I didn't say,
Steph is too
I
cool for
presented
this.
without comment, right? Like, I didn't say,
Yeah.
the
You let everyone
49ers
else.
interested in
You
a
were like, I don't even
quarterback.
have to say anything.
'Cause
I know these people. I could just put this out there, and it'll
yeah,
still.
exactly. I don't have to say anything, but there's other, like, I could probably get like way more engagement if I stirred the pot a little bit and was like, does this mean they're not serious about Brock Purdy? Well, go on, Ashley. Sorry.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you one last quick question because I know you got to go. For everyone, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Ashley Ariana, I'm gonna be going live with Jose tomorrow after Kyle Shanahan and all the rest of the coaches talk, and after the party tonight. And make sure to subscribe to Steph because she has a show coming up in like 5 minutes. But really quick, it was also announced that Jed York is buying out his mother, and he's going to be the primary owner of the 49ers. Did you have any kind of takeaways from that? Do you think maybe he will change his, I don't know, philosophy of how he's run his organization? It seemed like with Kyle Shanahan as coach, he's maybe been a lot more lenient. He seemed very positive after the NFC Championship game and seemed to have a lot of grace. Do you think that will change now that maybe he has more power? Why do you think he made this move? Or do you think, like, what was your takeaway to learning about this?
Yeah, I don't think it really changes, Jed York's power per se, or just his day-to-day with the team and how he works with, Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, I think is probably something he's been wanting to work towards for a while.
Yeah.
And so, they finally got it done, but I don't think it really changes anything in the grand scheme of things. I mean, Jed is going to continue to be Jed and who we know him to be, at least right now with this regime, which is, yeah, I mean, he has given, Lynch and Shanahan a pretty long leash.
Under the circumstances that they've had lots of success as well. I know not the
Exactly. That's
ultimate
important.
goal,
That's
but
important to point out. I mean, in the midst of all that, right? Like everyone looks at, wow, like they've been so close and they failed so many times, but look at how many times they've been so close, right? Like that counts for something too. So, yeah, I mean, I think Jed is going to continue to support both Lynch and Shanahan, and so yeah, this having the majority ownership over the team, I don't think really changes anything other than having the official,
title.
ownership of the team.
I will say, like, I enjoyed whether or not it actually worked this way or not, but maybe the illusion of there being like kind of a checks and balances that was going on. Like, potentially, if Jed York maybe did something wrong, I think as fans, we thought, okay, well, like his parents could always step in if need be. I remember back, during the Trey Lance saga, I think it was his dad that showed up to one of the practices one of the times. And whether or not that actually meant something, I felt like people maybe gave that, I think fans like assuming that there's some guidelines to how Jed York has to act. But at the same time, like, I don't know if that's very fair. And I think around the league, most of the owners are majority owners. And I think when it comes to, family business, it makes a lot of sense. Like that might just be the natural progression that was going to happen over time, no matter what, as long as Jed York was successful, which he has been with the 49ers.
Yep.
Just my assumption, but yeah. Like I said, everyone make sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Tomorrow we're going to they had some rule changes with the hip drop tackle, kickoffs, and then Brandon Aiyuk, more updates probably to come from Kyle Shanahan. Also talking about the offensive line. Today was a little bit of a shorter show, but I wanted to thank Steph for coming on, and everyone like and subscribe to Steph too if you're not already here from her channel. But yeah, thank you guys so much. And thank you, Steph.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Have a good one, guys. Thank you so much. And wait, anyone else notice really quickly that Juwan Jennings didn't sign his tender? I did. I heard. So I thought that he had posted that he had signed his tender, but it was actually just the offer. I thought
he signed it though. So
I feel like I feel like the messaging on this has been all sorts of confusing because I also thought he signed it, and then yesterday or this morning, David Lombardi came out and said that nothing has actually happened with it yet, and nothing that, like, I guess he still has the option to get picked up by another team.
He does, but that's part of the having the tender, right? Like,
okay.
Yeah,
so both the 49ers and Jennings have done everything they need to do to stay together. Now it's just if another team comes asking. Okay, exactly. I actually think I knew that. I just, maybe the way that it's been worded got confusing. I thought that that's what happened, but then Lombardi came out and was like, "Oh no," and I also got confused. So I'm glad that there was a commenter that asked and that we could clarify. Both the 49ers and Juwan Jennings signed the tender as long as another team doesn't give up a second-round pick, which is highly doubtful. Juwan Jennings will be a 49er this upcoming year. Anyways, now I really will log off. I'm glad that I caught that before ending it because I was confused too. So I appreciate you, Steph, for clarifying. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.